सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji takes the seeker step by step towards the ultimate goal, that is self-realization. If we want a balloon to go up, what are the conditions to be satisfied? The first condition is whatever strings are there which ties the balloon down, it has to be released, it has to be cut. And secondly, the balloon has to be filled with some lighter gas like helium gas so that it will go up. Both are necessary. In the same way, if the mind has to get detached from the world, and then if it has to soar higher into the realms of meditation, if it has to soar higher in devotion for God, then there are certain conditions necessary. The first is, the mind can be detached from the world only if it has got sufficient vairagyam or dispassion. The mind has to be dispassionate. Dispassionate is not indifference, it can be better called as healthy detachment. So in order to develop this healthy detachment, this vairagyam, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji goes deep into each and every matter of the world, into every aspects of the world which normally ties us down into the world. So in the first 6 verses we saw Bhagavan in detail giving reasons why the worldly, anything that comes from the world is limited. It cannot give us complete fulfillment. The worldly knowledge, the worldly wealth, the worldly pleasures, worldly existence, worldly love, and then worldly relationship. They all have their own imperfections. Now it is necessary to understand their imperfections, because then alone we will be easily be able to withdraw the mind from them. Otherwise it is not possible. So after having completed that part, then Bhagavan goes into explaining the importance of satsang. It is through satsang that a person gains a clear idea about the higher, about the purpose of life, about the presence of God, etc. Through satsang. Yesterday we had seen how people in this world without satsang, they suffer, especially in dealing with their mind. They are not able to handle their mind because there is a specific technique of handling the mind. And this technique is mentioned only in the scriptures. That is why the scriptures are called Manual of Right Living. Just before we start our life, get into the problems of the life, we must first of all know how to handle the mind which is going to solve the problem of life. We are going to handle the problems of life with the instrument called mind, That mind has to be well educated about the ways of the world before this mind is used to solve the problems of the world. So this mind has to be educated, and this education is present only in the scriptures of the world. So therefore, a scriptural study is a must, which is mentioned in the next verse. Here, Bhagavan gives the sadhana to be practiced in order to gain that supreme realization. So what are the sadhanas to be practiced? Let us chant the verse 20. Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita Ganga jalalava kanika pita Sakrdapi yena murari samarcha Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Yes. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, like a compassionate mother, he is asking the seekers to put a little effort in the direction of spirituality. You put a little effort. So what does Bhagwan say? Bhagavad Gita kinchit adhita. Those who study Bhagavad Gita a little. Ganga jala lavakanika pita. Those who drink, sip Ganga water. How much? Lavakanika. Maybe a few droplets. A little. Those who sip Ganga water a little. Sakrdapi yena murari samarcha. Those who worship Murari, the Lord, at least once. What is the benefit he enjoys? Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. Yama will not discuss about his matter. Yama will close the file regarding him. In Bhagavatam it is said, Yamaraj calls his attendants and says, see, that person takes the name of the Lord. Don't go anywhere near him. We have no right to enslave him. Such a verse is there in Bhagavatam. What does it mean? This person becomes totally free from the fear of death, which is the greatest fear. Now why Bhagavan is telling little, that is how you have to inspire, Put a little effort. What happens when you put a little effort? Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Bhagavad Gita. When you put a little effort, you start seeing the results. And when you see the result, what happens? You are again and again inspired to put a little more effort. And when you put a little more effort, how much will be the result? A little more result. And when you see more result, what happens? It is an exponential growth then. Not linear growth, exponential. The more the result, more you are inspired to put forth effort. More the effort, the more the results. That is how everyone starts. You cannot directly put forth intense effort in the beginning. No. You start a little in the beginning. And then onwards, the momentum gathers. In electronics, there is something called avalanche breakdown. Isn't it? One electron hitting the atom, and because of that hit, 2 electrons are liberated. And because of the field, now how many electrons are there? 1 plus 2, 3. 3 go and hit. Then again each electron hitting and 2 liberated. So like that, it just keeps multiplying. Something like that it is. I don't remember. But the fact is, your effort gains momentum day by day. So therefore, Bhagavan is just giving a push, saying, little you practice. Now what are the things to be practiced? Your spiritual practice become healthy. Your spiritual practice become complete when you take care of each and every personality layers. So for each personality layer, what is the kind of sadhana you are supposed to perform? That is what is given. So first, for your intellectual personality layer. So what is the purpose of intellect? Intellect has to decide what is right, what is wrong. Intellect has to decide the right course of action. Intellect has to get the clarity, isn't it? So from where do you get the clarity? You get it only from scriptures. So here Bhagavad Gita kinchit adhita. Study Bhagavad Gita. It will be good if you study under the guidance of a teacher. Why is it so? Because it is possible that you may misinterpret the scriptures, especially because it is written in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is such a language which it's a mysterious language. You can bring out any kind of meaning according to your desire. So therefore, it is always suggested that you follow the guidance of a teacher who has already walked the path, so that you don't allow your mind to interpret that which is convenient to you. Study of Bhagavad Gita. As I said, it's a manual of right living. So this gives a direction to your sadhana. Then what are we supposed to do? Ganga jala lava kanika pita. Drink, sip the holy waters of Ganga. Now what does it mean? It takes care of the emotional personality of a person. It is not that just you drink Ganga Jalam, everything will be fine. In that case, all this satsang is not necessary. You have to just set up a house near Ganga river and keep drinking and bathing. Nothing will happen. What is meant here is Ganga represents faith. Ganga represents devotion. So it addresses the emotional personality. If you see the great saints, they had so much of love, respect and reverence towards this one river. Lot of stories are associated with the river. When you listen to those stories, you will find your heart getting purified. Tulsidas ji used to say, Ganga is my mother. So when I take dip in Ganga, it is something like playing in the lap of my mother. Now see, taking dip, if you just consider Ganga as a river, it can at the most purify your body. But when you have this attitude that I am playing in the lap of Mother Ganga, then what happens? Those noble emotions which rise in the heart, it purifies the heart. Swami Taponji Maharaj used to say, Ganga is none other than Brahman itself in the form of water flowing. Now see that beautiful imagination. That will immediately purify the heart. So Ganga meaning it is addressing the emotional personality. Then Sakridapiyena Murari Samarcha, worship. Now in worship, which aspect of our personality gains importance? It is the physical aspect, because puja is done through the body. So what are we supposed to do with the body? The worship of the Lord. What is the best kind of worship? The best way to worship the Lord, as said in Upadesha Saram, is Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrad Deva Pujanam. The best Deva Pujanam is Ishadhi Yukta Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam. Serving the world as though I am serving the Lord. This is the best form of worship. So whatever profession you are, don't say that I am serving the people. Don't say I am serving the world. What you should say? I am serving the Lord Himself. Why? Because this world is none other than Lord's eightfold form. Ashtamurti Bhrit is what this world is. Bhagwan is Bhrit, supporter of this Ashtamurti. What are these Ashtamurti? 8 forms. The 5 elements, the space, air, fire, water, earth. 5 elements. Sun, moon and the living beings. So 8. Sun represents all planets which can give out light, and moon represents all planets which does not have its own light, which reflects light. So like that 8 forms. So whoever serves the world with the attitude that I am serving the Lord, such a person is doing the best form of worship. If that is not possible, if that you find it difficult, because yes, for that you need a lot of maturity, to consider everyone as an embodiment of God, to consider every situation as something sent by God, If that is difficult, then go for the Murti Puja. What is Murti Puja? Take your Ishtadevata. In front of that form, do the worship. Shodasha Upachara Puja. The normal puja which is performed in houses and temples, etc. But we must grow from that Murti Puja to Ashtamurti Bhrut Puja. Worshipping the world as worshipping the form of God. That evolution has to happen. Murti Puja sets the initial foundation. So here 3 different layers are told. Intellectual layer is satisfied through study, through logical thinking. Emotional layer is satisfied by bringing out noble emotions through each and every activity. And the physical layer is addressed by doing the worship of the Lord. Now here we must understand, in a day, your mind will not be in a mood to meditate always. As the time changes, you will find, especially early in the morning, subtler meditations are easy to perform. So early morning, don't do the gross things. You must try to do the subtler sadhanas. What are the subtler sadhanas? Sadhanas in which there is minimum support. That is called subtler sadhana. Especially meditation upon consciousness, etc. They are subtler sadhanas. They are very high sadhanas where the support is minimum. The body is almost inactive, senses are closed, and at the most you are taking the support of the mind. That is called subtler sadhana. So when the atmosphere is having sattvic vibration, go for subtler sadhanas. And as the day progresses, you will find more and more rajas coming up. As the sun rises, activities increase, restlessness increase. So then you will not be able to do subtler sadhanas. What you have to do? You have to take the support of your grosser personalities. So therefore, as the day passes by, you can come down from the subtler to the grosser. For example, reading a scriptural book is a gross sadhana because senses are involved, but at the same time you are not allowing the mind to go into the negative directions, evil ways. You are forcing your mind to think only positive when you are reading scriptures, watching some good programs in TV, etc. So always see to it that your mind is filled with good thoughts. Depending upon the time, you will have to shift the sadhana, change the sadhana. Otherwise you will get bored. So trial and error method. Through that you will come to know at which time what has to do. So you will have to plan out your day in that way. But see to it that mind is always occupied with something good, something noble. Om Bhadram Karne Vishrunuyama Devaha. O Lord, may I listen only to that which is auspicious. Bhadram Pasye Makshabhiryajatraha. O Lord, may I see only that which is auspicious. So through the senses, you fill in your mind with only good thoughts, noble thoughts. This way the whole day should be led in a disciplined manner. Then what will happen to such a person? Kriyate tasya yamenana charcha. Yamraj will not discuss his matter. Meaning, such a person will experience that highest truth, and that truth is free from all kinds of decay and death. That truth is imperishable, which is your own self. You come to get a glimpse of it, and later on you get established in that truth. After that, there is no more fear of death or anything else. Now, how you should pray is what is given in the next verse. Let us chant that. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha samsare bahudustare, कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारे. भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज Yes. This verse indicates the importance of invoking the grace of the Lord. Earlier verse indicated the importance of self-effort. Here, the importance of grace is pointed out. Mere self-effort will not do. Grace of the Lord is absolutely essential. There is a very famous story which clearly indicates, how the grace come to help a person who puts forth effort sincerely. The story goes like this. There are many versions of this story. One story is, there was this bird which had laid its egg near the seashore. So one day what happened? Varuna Devata, that is the ocean, in order to tease this bird, took away the eggs of this bird. Now the bird came back and saw that all the eggs are missing. So then this bird, out of anger, it said, "O ocean, you have taken away my eggs. I will dry you up." And saying so, this bird took a blade of grass, went to the ocean, dipped it, went to the shore, sprinkled it out, again came back, again it dipped. What is the effort going on? To dry up the ocean. This was going on with full zeal. Another bird came, asked, "What are you doing?" So this bird told the matter. "This ocean has taken away my eggs. So I am trying to dry it up." So this bird also joined. The second bird joined. Slowly a third bird joined. So like that, the birds, some group of birds started doing this with a blade of grass, dipping it in the ocean and then sprinkling it out. So by chance Naradji was passing by and he saw this. So many birds doing something uncommon. So he went and inquired, "What are you doing?" So one of them told, "This is what we are up to." The heart of Naradji melted. Immediately he went to Vishnu Loka and said, "Bhagavan, such a thing has happened. The birds are doing such a thing there. Please shower your grace." Vishnu Bhagavan got really angry. He called up this Varuna Devata and shouted at him, "How dare you do this? Give the bird her eggs back." So Varuna Devata bowed down to him and immediately gave away the eggs. This is a story. Now see, if suppose the bird had thought, "What to do? This ocean is so large. It has taken away my eggs. I can't do anything. Dipping this, the grass and removing the water, it is impossible, impractical. I don't think it is possible. Forget these eggs." If this were to be the attitude of that bird, never would it have got the eggs, isn't it? So that effort was essential. It was because the bird put forth the effort that things so happened that the message went to Vishnu. His heart melted and the bird got the eggs back. So here the effort is also important and at the same time grace is also important. It is exactly the same case with us also. Whatever effort you do with your body, with your mind, with your intellect, it is just like that bird taking the blade of grass and removing the water. With our personal effort, it is impossible to reach God because He is infinite. To reach the infinite, how much actions you have to perform? Infinite actions. Is it possible? It is not possible. But that doesn't mean that you should not put forth effort. What you have to do? You have to keep putting forth effort. And when the right time comes, the grace will descend. And it is with that grace that a person comes to realize the ultimate truth. So the effort is absolutely essential. It is out of Bhagwan's grace that a person comes to know that he is one with the Lord. It is not because of his own effort that he gains that. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gives a beautiful example. The servant of the house, for so many years he has been serving the master in all departments, with all humility. So the servant has been serving the master for so many years. So when the master becomes so happy with his servant, so someday what will the master do? Out of his love, he will call the servant and he will say, "Come, sit besides me, isn't it? And he will hug that servant. Now the sitting besides the master, meaning what? We are one. So in the same way, Bhagavan, when he becomes pleased with the devotee, he, out of his grace, showers this great knowledge that we are one, we are not different. Now suppose the servant comes and sit beside the master. We are one. How will it be? The very same master will kick him out. Isn't it? So don't start with Aham Brahmasmi in the beginning. Don't start with Aham Brahmasmi in the beginning. That is not for the beginner. For the beginner, the attitude is Bhagavan, I am nothing. Be absolutely humble. Be a zero. The rest Bhagavan takes over. So here the same thing happens. This devotee completely surrenders unto the Lord. What does he say? Bhagavan, I am suffering in this world. How? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. There is no coming out. Again birth, again death, again birth, again death. Infinite cycle. Punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Birth means what? First you have to go through the womb of the mother. Bhagavatam explains how much the jiva inside the womb suffers. No freedom. Filth all over. And it is said, this jiva inside prays, Bhagavan, please take me out of this womb. I am suffering. Once I come out, I will take your name. The fetus inside the womb, it prays, it seems, to the Lord. Once I come out, I will take your name. But once it comes out, it forgets. That is what Bhagavatam says. So Bhagavan, enough of this drama. I have suffered enough. Now release me. I myself cannot come out. Why? Because this is like an ocean. Iha samsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare. Oh Lord, please save me. This samsara is like an ocean. Apare, shoreless ocean, infinite ocean. Bahudustare, impossible to cross over by one's own effort. So therefore you alone have to lift me out. There is no other go. So here a complete surrender in all meekness, in all humility, in all helplessness. The prayer comes out of this devotee. Many times we wonder why Bhagavan has given so much of suffering in this world. So much of suffering is given to reach this point. Because only when the suffering is too much, you really from the depth of your heart, you start praying. Otherwise you will not pray. A comfortable person will never pray. Isn't it? Somebody went to Vivekananda and asked, Swamiji, when will I realize God? Swamiji said, come here with me. He took him to a nearby river and suddenly caught hold of his collar and dipped his head into the water. Kept him there for some few seconds. Then took him out. And asked, what was your feeling inside water? Then he said, Swamiji, what are you doing? Inside water there was only one desire, to come out. Isn't it? So in the same way you must have that longing for God. Then at that very moment you will realize. So to create that longing, Bhagavan has created some measured doses of suffering. What is this measured doses? Each one's capacity is different. Isn't it? So he knows the capacity. Who can withstand how much? So accordingly he gives that doses of suffering. So then out of that suffering when we pray, he listens. So in order to create that longing, he has created suffering. So in fact, all sufferings in the world, they are all blessings in disguise. You must know this. Otherwise you will consider suffering itself as a curse from Lord. There are many people who, because they are suffering, they stop all their worship, their japa, their puja, everything they stop. Why? Because God has given me so much of suffering in spite of my prayer. Remember, the more you pray, the more suffering will come to you. That is the test of your faith. And the more the suffering, the more he himself will strengthen that faith also. He will take you out of that suffering. In the process, your faith will strengthen, your love will strengthen. That is why Kunti Devi, what is her prayer? Oh Lord, give me more and more suffering, because only in suffering I remember you. What a prayer it is. Isn't it? All the saints, if you find, they ask for suffering. That is a true sign of a devotee. He welcomes suffering more than he welcomes comfort and ease. Because every suffering comes with a blessing. It increases your devotion, your faith, etc. So what should be our attitude when the problems and suffering comes in life? Our attitude should be, take the problems to God first. Instead of trying to solve it yourself, what are we supposed to do? Take it to God. And you will find you will get the best solution for all your problems in life. This one must make it a habit. Whenever problem comes, first thing, whom you should remember? God. So whenever you find that your problems are solved through God, your faith will increase, your love will increase, moreover you become more and more humble. So not only that you will overcome the obstacle with the best solution, but in the process, the mental purification happens very fast. But suppose you don't take your problems to God, what will happen? Whether you solve it or not, you are going to be a loser. If you solve the problem, the ego will rise. Ego rising means going away from God. If you don't solve the problem, the result will be stress, strain, worry, fear, anxiety, etc. In both cases, you are a loser. So the best solution is, whenever the problem comes, seek Him. Seek His strength. Seek His guidance. Seek His grace. So this is the way to pray. Remember, the ultimate experience of God realization has to come from Him alone. Just like sleep. Can I decide sleep? Okay, 10:30 I am going to sleep. You may lie down on the bed, but the sleep is something which comes from the unknown source, isn't it? It is not in your hands. You can prepare for sleep. How do you prepare? Work hard. Become very tired. Now they are all preparations. Make a very soft, smooth bed. They are all preparations. You can at the most prepare, but you cannot enter into the kingdom of sleep. Isn't it? In the same way, we can prepare ourselves for the vision of God. How do you prepare? With the purity of mind, with clarity of thinking, etc. With your own effort, your sadhana, you can prepare. But then after preparing, you have to just wait. Just like sleep, you have to wait for the sleep to overpower you. In the same way, at the seat of meditation also, you have to just wait. And then, at the appropriate time, the experience happen. And when the experience happen, what happens to this person? This person wakes up from his meditation seat as a realized saint. The description of which is given in the next verse. Let us chant. Rathyacarpata virachita kantha punya punya vivarjita pantha yogi yoga niyojita citto Ramate balonmattava deva Bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate. Yes. Such a God-realized saint, after having experienced the higher, Ramate, he enjoys. The purpose of life is over. How does he enjoy life? Some few examples are given. Similes are given. Bala unmattavat eva. Like a child. Balavat. Unmattavat. Like a madman. And sometimes it is called pishachavat. Like a ghost. He enjoys life. Why it is said balavat? There are certain characteristics of a child which are very, very similar to the characteristics of a realized saint. Number one, A child lives in the present. It never drags the past to the present. It never pollutes the present with the worries of the future. Every child you will find lives moment to moment. This is one characteristic. Childlike. A child considers everyone same. There is no higher, lower, etc. Samadarshanam is there in a child, isn't it? There is innocence in a child. There is purity in a child. And one great thing is the child knows that I don't know anything, and the child admits also. I don't know anything. A realized saint also admits I don't know anything. Absolutely humble. In the Greece, it was declared that Socrates is the wisest man of the world, in the world. So naturally reporters, they encircled Socrates and asked, "Sir, what is your opinion? You have been declared the wisest man." Socrates said, "There is only one thing I know, that I don't know anything." That was his answer. Absolute humility. I don't know anything. So Bhagwan is great. Whoever feels that I don't know anything, he makes him know everything. Balavat. And this child has this thing. What is that? Tremendous amount of faith in its parents. And therefore, as I told you some few days back, the child is the happiest being on earth because of this immense faith upon the parents. In the same way, this Mahatma, because of his direct vision of the truth, from then onwards, doubt doesn't creep into his mind, whether the God exists or not, etc. Everything that happens in the world, he knows it is the Leela of the Lord, and therefore there is no fear, there is no worry, anxiety. Therefore, he enjoys like a child. Everything is a Leela of the Lord. Then Unmattavat. Unmattavat means mad fellow. One great thing about mad person is he doesn't bother about others. Isn't it? He does so many things, but he doesn't bother. What will others think of me? Such a thing is not there in a mad person. And one more thing about mad person is he is living in a world which is insulated in the vision of others. Others have no entry into his strange world. Isn't it? Mad fellow he is living in his own world. What is he going through? What is he experiencing? Nobody will know. In the same way, this realized saint, what kind of experience he is having? Because these cannot be explained through words. One has to reach that stage, then only that person will know what that state is. Unmattavat, like an intoxicated person. And sometimes it is called Pishachavat, like a ghost. About ghost is not afraid of anyone. Others are afraid of ghost. Isn't it? So these are some of the description. Ghost means he doesn't sometimes care about his body at all, his bodily needs. Sometimes you will find him very shabby, filthy, because his mind is in such a high plane that it is not there at the plane of the body at all. So sometimes he looks like a ghost. Whatever it is, one thing is for sure, he revels. Nandati nandati nandatyeva. There is no interruption, any block as far as his content of joy is concerned. And now, what are we supposed to do therefore? Once again, Bhagwan reminds. Now this verse, the next one, Bhagwan takes to a next higher stage of teaching. Totally different stage. Till now this stage has not come, because the disciple was not prepared enough to handle this stage. Guru also gives teaching in doses. Initially mild dose is given, later on heavy dose is given, according to the capacity of the disciple to digest. Now here comes a very heavy dose. Let us see this heavy dose. Verse number 23. Kastvam koham kuta ayatah kame janani ko me tatah iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishwam tyak त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. Yes. Therefore Bhagavan says, therefore ask these most important questions in life. What is that? Similar we had seen earlier. Kastvam, who are you? Koham, who am I? Kuta ayataha, from where have we come from? Kame janani, who is my mother? Kome tataha, who is my father? Etc. The most basic questions in life start asking. Now these are not the questions which you keep asking mechanically. It has to come out of evolution. These questions will not come to everyone. The very fact that you are coming for these 7 days proves that somewhere deep in the subconscious mind you have these questions. Otherwise you wouldn't have come for these 6-7 days. So many lakhs of people are there here. Why are they not attracted towards this kind of knowledge? Because their evolution has not reached that state. Let us spend some time on that. Evolutionary aspect of a human being. Because this verse goes to the next higher stage. So before going to the higher stage, let us see certain lower stages. Every one of us in this world, we have a philosophy about life. Right? What do you mean by philosophy about life? Philosophy about life means, if I lead life in such and such way, I will be happy. So whatever you are convinced, that is called philosophy about life. And remember, each one will have a particular kind of philosophy. And you have come to this philosophy by observing the world. By observing your experiences. Now what are the different philosophies? We will see. First we will talk about the lowest one. Such a person is called a tamasic person. He also observes the world. And he comes with certain conclusions about life. How one should be happy. So now this tamasic person observes life and finds that whenever I sleep, I am happy. Yes or no? Yes. Whenever we sleep, we are happy. Whenever I have no responsibilities, I am happy. Whenever responsibilities come, I become miserable. Yes or no? It is true. Isn't it? The moment responsibilities are given, mind becomes disturbed. So these things he observes, and so therefore, what will be his philosophy about life? Happiness comes from sleep. Happiness comes from escaping responsibilities. So naturally his life you will find these things practiced again and again. Remember, he has come to this philosophy by observing life only. Only thing is, he has not observed it deeply. He has come to this conclusion because of his superficial way of observing life. So what will he do now? Once you have made a philosophy about life, naturally you will live that philosophy. So what will he do? He will sleep. He will try to extend his sleep. 8 hours, 10 hours. So he will not get up from the bed. He will keep rolling again and again. Maybe sometimes a little more sleep might come. Isn't it? So whenever responsibilities are given to him, what will he do? He will give some excuse and escape. This is called tamasic person. This is the first level. Then slowly he observes life in a little more detail. And he makes a slight alteration in his philosophy. What is the alteration? He finds that if I eat better, I will be more happy. Good food. Food also, there are varieties. Tasteless food is also there. Tasty food is also there. Isn't it? If I live in a bigger house, I will be happy. If I live amidst more comforts, I will be happy. So therefore, what to do to get more comforts? Naturally, you have to earn money. So therefore, because he wants money to gain more happiness, again his philosophy is the same. Sleeping is happiness. Idling away time is happiness. But if I have a little more money, then I can spend my rest of my life in sleep and freedom. So therefore, what does he do? He puts forth effort. Such a person is called rajasically tamasic. This is the second stage. What is that? Rajasically tamasic means what? Little rajas has come, little activity has come. Now why is he putting forth activity? So that he will gain some money, and with that money, the rest of life, he can follow his wish, that is sleep and freedom from responsibility. So he start working. And slowly what happens? As he works, more and more money comes. And as he gains more and more money, what happens? He finds that when I am rich, I am respected. When I am rich, I can buy the objects of my desires. So there is greater and greater happiness with money. So therefore his philosophy changed to next level. And what is the philosophy? Money is happiness. Because with money I can get everything what I want. People respect only the rich. He observes. Remember, this philosophy also he has come by observing the world. So therefore his philosophy is by hook or crook gain money. Such a person is called tamasically rajasic person. First is tamasic person. Next is rajasically tamasic. Third is tamasically rajasic. Now his philosophy is money is happiness. So therefore how will he earn money? He will use all crooked means to earn money, isn't it? Because money is the goal. So he will involve himself in corruption, in all kinds of what you call negative means he will employ to earn money. And then a day comes when he is caught up. When the police catches him, his news comes in the newspaper, some scam, etc. He is humiliated everywhere. He is put into jail. These kinds of reports we see in the newspaper, isn't it? And because of this pain, because of this insult, he goes to the next level. From the tamasically rajasic level, he goes to rajasic level. Now what is a rajasic level? What is his philosophy? His philosophy is money alone is happiness, no doubt, but clean money is happiness. That is the next level. Because he has learned that lesson through a hard way. So therefore again he works hard. Now remember, he is busy 24 hours. Because money will not come just like that. You have to work hard. He works hard and he brings out quality products. He competes with others, tries to be the best. And naturally, since he tries to be the best, he gains lot of money, he gains lot of respect in the society. Right? He lives a life of luxury. Now a time comes when he has everything in life. That is a stage. But then slowly when he looks within, he finds that there is something lacking. I have everything. I have a very good family. I have money. I have all comforts in life. But I don't know. I feel a sense of hollowness within. I'm not fully happy. Because when he looks around, he finds that there are many people who are not great achievers in life, but they are enjoying their life very much. They don't have much money, but they are thoroughly enjoying their life. Now this rajasic person is a great achiever. He might be a world famous figure. Very famous. But when he looks within, he finds there is something lacking. That fulfillment is missing. Now he is wondering. Then someday by accident, his friend comes and says, "My dear friend, I am going to such and such orphanage. Will you come with me?" Then this person says, "Why should I come to orphanage? Because in orphanage you don't gain any money." A rajasic person thinks of his joy only in terms of recognition, only in terms of money. But anyway, because he happens to be his friend, he goes along with him, goes to an orphanage, and he sees there are so many poor people, poor children suffering, no food, no clothes. Then this friend suggests, "See, you are so rich. Why don't you donate some money to these children? You have so many things. At least these children will have some food to eat." So this rich man, this rajasic man, because his friend had told, he shells out some money. And that night, when he closes his eyes, he finds a sense of fulfillment within. Some joy. Now this is a joy which he had never experienced before. He is aware of the joy of recognition. He is aware of the joy of rewards, the joy of earning. But this joy he finds much, much subtler and much more fulfilling. And he finds that this joy has come because he had given away some money to the needy. Now an opening has come. He was stuck in life. Now a new opening has come. He experiences a certain kind of higher joy. Slowly, slowly, he starts involving himself in more and more of such selfless activity. And he finds that whenever he is selfless, he is gaining more and more joy. And that itself starts inspiring him. Slowly, slowly, majority of part of the wealth he gives out to the poor and the needy. Recently I read one article about a person, one Mr. Kalyana Sundaram. I'm sure you must have received that email. This person, for last 30 years, he was working as a librarian, and whatever money he got, he gave it to the poor. Not even 1 paisa he kept it with himself. Whatever salary he got for 30 years working as a librarian, he gave it away to the poor. And to meet his needs, in the night he used to work in a hotel. So the hotel used to take care of his needs. He is from Chennai, Kalyana Sundaram. So recently he was awarded with the Man of the Millennium Award by US government. Man of the Millennium, because he gave everything. Including his pension of 10 lakhs he gave away. US government, felicitated him by giving this award, Man of the Millennium, 30 crores. That money also he gave away. Unfortunately, our Indian government is yet to recognize him. So what I am trying to say is, this person finds the joy of service. Earlier he knew only the joy of recognition, which was grosser. Now he has discovered the source of joy, the joy of selfless service. So this Rajasic person becomes Satvically Rajasic person. Again he is active. He is Rajasic because he is active. But now he is active not for himself but for others. So therefore Satvically Rajasic person. Right? Now naturally when you do more and more selfless service, what happens to your mind? The mind starts becoming more and more pure. A pure mind starts thinking higher and higher. And that mind which has been so thoroughly purified, such a mind will have these questions. What are they? Kastvam, koham, kuta ayataha, kame janani, kome tataha. These questions don't come in a gross mind, in a selfish mind. These questions can never arise. A selfish gross mind will only think, what will I get? What will I get? What will I get? How much money I can earn? That's it. It cannot rise higher. If these questions have to be asked, that mind has to become so pure, so mature it must have become. It doesn't happen in a day or two. Now whatever I have described, it doesn't happen in a day. Many births have to go. So now this Satvically Rajasic person has got a philosophy in life. What is his philosophy? Selflessness is happiness. That is his philosophy. Earlier his philosophy was money is happiness. Now he has changed his philosophy. What is that? Give. The source of happiness is give. Giving is happiness. And slowly, because his mind has become so pure, these questions starts haunting him. Because whenever he sees around, seeing the orphans, poor people suffering, naturally these questions come. Why God has given so much of suffering? Why there is so much of suffering? Is there not a way out for all this? These questions starts haunting him. He may not be getting the answers, but these questions are there at the back of the mind. And suddenly, while going through the road, he comes across one banner. Gita Jnana Yajna. Suddenly he is pulled helplessly as though. When he sees there is a discourse on Bhagavad Gita about philosophy, about life, suddenly he feels, let me go and see what does these scriptures say. He goes and sits. And there he finds that many of the questions which he had, which he was not finding in the right source to get the answer, he gets answers to these questions. And as he starts getting answers, he clearly understands. By listening to these discourses many a times, he comes to know the very purpose of life. What is the purpose of life? To realize God. And he very clearly understands the means as well as the end through continuous listening to the scriptures. So what does he understand? He understands that there is a state, man is essentially perfect, he is of the nature of consciousness, but this perfection can be tapped, can be accessed only with a purified mind. And the mind can be purified through Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means performing all actions as a worship of the Lord. So all those basics he learns from these discourses. Then this person who has been initiated into scriptures, have now clearly understood the purpose of life, has now understood the obstacles in reaching the highest. Now this educated, scripturally educated person becomes rajasically sattvic. That's the next stage. Rajasically sattvic means what? He is a sattvic person, but now he is working in the world for whom? Naturally he does good work, but now he has an additional purpose of working. And that purpose is purification of the mind. Because he understands that it is the mind which is the obstacle between me and the ultimate infinite truth. So this mind has to be eliminated. It can be eliminated only through purification. Now again this person is active in the world, but now the purpose is purification of the mind. Such a person is called Karma Yogi. So who is a Karma Yogi? He is not interested in the results. He is interested in realizing God. So now he has used action as a means to purify his mind. So the results are secondary for him. So he is not bothered whether he is going to win or lose. He is only bothered whether his mind is getting purified or not. Such a person is called Karma Yogi. So naturally what happens when such a person functions in the world? The mind becomes more and more pure. This rajasically sattvic person over a period of time becomes sattvic person. A person who is fit for meditation. Now he has such a pure mind that at the seat of meditation he finds that mind doesn't wander. It is pure, it is disciplined, the mind is obedient. This person at the seat of meditation is able to handle the mind, discipline the mind very easily. Like handling a very good child, an obedient child. So at the seat of meditation, this person is able to quieten the mind absolutely, and in that absolute quiet mind, he comes to know the ultimate reality. And what is ultimate reality? The world is an illusion. Only one thing exists, that is me, the Supreme Self. Who reaches it? Only sattvic person reaches it. So how many stages? Tamasic, rajasically tamasic, tamasically rajasic, rajasic, sattvically rajasic, rajasically sattvic, sattvic, and then jump. Go beyond the mind. The sattvic person at the seat of meditation goes beyond the mind. Going beyond the mind means rendering it absolutely silent and quiet. Gurudev gives the example of this pole vaulter. You would have seen that. So this person runs and then with that pole fixes it on the ground. And then what does he do? When the pole lifts up, he starts climbing up. So this climbing continues when the pole becomes absolutely perpendicular to the ground. What does he do? From then onwards, by the time he would have reached the top by climbing it, and the moment the pole becomes absolutely perpendicular, he drops the pole and jumps beyond, isn't it? So the sattvic person is someone on the top of the pole, and this pole is nothing but the mind. So the final stage is drop the mind, go beyond. And the moment the mind dissolves, the world also dissolves. There is no world. World is experienced only through the mind. And once the mind becomes null and void, the world also becomes a void. So here, why did I say all this? To explain the next line. Iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishwam tektva swapna vicharam. Bhagwan goes to the next stage. Bhagwan says this Vishwam is swapna vicharam. It is nothing but a dream. It doesn't exist. Sarvam asaram. Everything is essenceless except your own true self. Understand that the world is an illusion. It doesn't exist. What exists is only you, the Supreme Self. Why did I say this is the next stage? I said it so because till now, Bhagavan as though had accepted the reality of the world. Isn't it? So he was speaking about worldly knowledge. He was speaking about worldly pleasure. He was speaking about worldly existence. So one may tend to think that world is real. So what does the teacher do? Teacher from his level comes down to the level of the disciple. Now where is the disciple laying now? He is at the worldly level. According to him, world is real, God is unreal. Guru comes down to his level. For the time being accepts his standpoint. What is his standpoint? World is real. So Guru comes down, accepts his standpoint, and then starts pointing out the defects in the world as though the world is real. Because if he directly speak about the non-dual truth, that world doesn't exist, etc., this disciple is not going to believe, he is not going to accept, he will not understand also. That piece of knowledge is of no use to him. So therefore, till now you will find Bhagavan speaking about the world as though it is real. From this verse, suddenly Bhagavan jumps across, goes to the next stage. Why does he go to the next stage? He goes to the next stage because he finds that the disciple now is mature enough to understand this truth. Guru feels that I have taken my disciple into confidence. Now he will not leave me even if I tell this truth. He will not doubt me. But even then, there were some disciples who doubted, who became angry, who were just about to go away. Because Guru was telling which was absolutely contrary to their direct experience. Their experience is world is absolutely real. Guru says world is absolutely unreal. Now, some of the disciples got violent, got disturbed. They were about to leave. Immediately Bhagavan says, stop. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om